70s were great.
70s were great.
The 70s were great, and who's the boss?
That's right. Who's the boss?
Who's the boss? You know what? I'm coming up with something. I need 2 volunteers. You know what I need? I need Norma and Charlotte. That's what I need. That's what I need. Norma and Charlotte, thick as thieves, both of them turning 70 or have turned 70 this year. But you know, we prepared a little something for you guys, a little biography. We're just going to read right now, let everybody know all about you. Norma Jean Ford was born on a warm June day in 1942. The first child of Benny and Alice Ford. She was a bright-eyed little girl who, 4 months later on a brisk October day, was joined by her first cousin, Charlotte. Charlotte, meanwhile, is the daughter of Benny's youngest sister, Sarah Ford, and Robert Mans, a family friend who a year earlier, as it turns out, had been best man at Benny's wedding and was known as Sags. Norma, who eventually had 3 younger siblings, was something of a leader. Don't ask why she and her 3 siblings sniffed Miss Allison's chair. Charlotte, meanwhile, was a tomboy. Her mother would put her in nice dresses and tell her not to get dirty. Charlotte was sure to heed her mother's advice. She made, as a lady, always a lady, she made certain to tuck her dress into her panties. And boy, you know something about Charlotte? She could run. She was faster than everybody. And one of the few people who ever beat her running was a boy she met when he was 4 and she was 2. I'll get back to him later. Even so, as little girls, she and Norma were partners. As legend has it, they once accidentally killed about 100 baby chicks by squeezing them through rubber. Benny tells the story of how Norma and Rosie, along with brother, would come into the beer garden and take bags of chips off the shelves, open them, eat some of them, and then dump the rest on the ground. Then they would go back for more bags. Their grandfather Johnson would watch amused, then stop them once they had rummaged through too many bags. The girls grew up in and around Beach Bottom. They were doted on by their grandmother Rosella and kept in line by their parents. But in 1950, Norma and her family left West Virginia and moved to Highland Park, Michigan. Norma was so depressed upon seeing her new home. Even at 8, she knew it was a place she didn't want to stay. And they didn't, not for too long. She and her family settled in a quaint home in Highland Park, living right next door to Alice's mother. Her family joined Second Baptist Church, and Norma joined the choir. Then in 1956, a tall, lanky fellow also joined the choir. Fresh out of high school, he joined because he liked to sing, but mostly because the choir was about to take a trip to Pittsburgh. As it happened, on that bus trip to Pittsburgh, the tall, lanky fellow was looking for a seat. There was one open next to Norma. He asked if he could sit down. She said no. He sat down anyway. His name was Robert Meadows, but everyone called him Leroy. By the end of that trip, he and Norma were a couple. I won't even ask what actually happened on that bus to make sense. Charlotte, meanwhile, was blossoming too. The year Norma graduated from Highland Park High School, 300 miles away, Charlotte graduated from Wellsburg High. And remember that boy who beat her in the foot race, the one she met when she was 2 and he was 4? His name was Russell Edwards. Now, let me tell you something. Russell was a city slicker. He lived in Wheeling. And had indoor plumbing. He was also clean. Charlotte took delight in stepping on his shoes. But again, as Carla put it, Charlotte was the only person he let ride in his car for free. You said he didn't get the money? What? Now, how close did she and Russell get? Just ask Charlotte's Uncle William about the time she stayed out past curfew on New Year's Eve. He grounded her for a month. Surely Russell was the only boy she would do something like that for. But you want to talk about staying out late? On one of Leroy and Norma's early dates, Leroy picked her up from her house. When he asked what time she had to be home, Norma answered, "Oh, anytime." As they could tell from Benny waiting on the porch, Norma had given the wrong answer. But in 1962, Leroy, who had been back from the Army for a short while, asked Benny for permission to marry his oldest daughter. Benny was pleased that Leroy had asked and gave his permission. Norma and Leroy married in February 1963 at Second Baptist. One of Norma's bridesmaids, her first cousin Charlotte. But Charlotte, to Norma's surprise, left on the bus the very next day. From then on, that night, Norma teased Charlotte that she had to hurry home to Russell. Norma and Leroy, being young, wasted no time starting a family. Their daughter Suzanne was born in July 1964. 3 months later, Charlotte got married. She and Russell tied the knot at New Mount Zion Baptist Church, the house of worship Charlotte joined shortly after moving to Cleveland the year before. Russell, being even younger than Leroy, wasted even less time starting. Their son, Russell Jr., was born in August 1965. Now that's 10 months after the wedding. Shortly thereafter, Norma and Leroy traveled to Cleveland to see Charlotte's baby, as well as meet her husband. When they arrived, Russell Sr. wasn't home. Charlotte and Leroy and Norma waited and waited and waited. And finally it got too late, so they went to bed. In the middle of the night, Russell tiptoed in, waiting. Seeing this, Leroy leaned over and whispered to Norma, "Well, we're in polite company. I can't say what Leroy is." But you can probably ask him privately. Norma had worked in the supermarket as a cashier, but stayed home after Suzanne was born. She had a son, Bobby, in December 1966. And Charlotte, who had worked at the phone company until her son was born, began working at the Board of Education after daughter Carla was born in June 1969. Within a few weeks, of Carla's birth, Charlotte and Norma packed up their families and went to the first Ford family reunion. It has been a staple of their summers ever since. And no one can question their commitment to the reunion. No.
Amen.
Norma. Norma had a third child, Chris, in October 1973. A few years later, she returned to the workforce and worked for many years in doctor referral at Providence Hospital. In 1999, however, she abruptly quit. The reason? It was abrupt. The reason, for the first time in her life, she was unable to get off the week for the reunion. Oh, thought Norma, I bet I can. She basically threw down her phone and walked out. Exactly what happened. She and Leroy joined St. Timothy Lutheran the church where her children attended school. She was very involved in the school, in the church, and was always at the school for her children. Charlotte worked as a joint liaison and teacher's aide, and while her children attended Hodge Elementary, she worked there too. Carla was no problem. But Russell was Charlotte's Missouri child. He had to be shown boundary setting. He likely inspired Charlotte's motto, "I'd rather beat than eat." When would Charlotte say it, I asked Carla. Carla said, there was never a time when she wouldn't say it. She says it now. She's just fiery, says her daughter. The cousins' families visited back and forth between Cleveland and Detroit, at least until trips taking their children to college began interfering. Then they began a new tradition, the Turnpike reunion.
That's right.
And we are about to get ghetto now. Norma and Leroy, and anyone who wanted to join them, headed southeast from Detroit. Charlotte and Russell, and anyone who wanted to join them, headed northwest from Cleveland. They would meet in the middle for a few hours and head back home. It was a tradition everyone looked forward to, including Leroy. Because you see, that day after Russell tiptoed home in the middle of the night, he and Leroy hit it off right away.
Amen.
Charlotte joined Lee Memorial AME Church in 2002 where Russell attended. After St. Timothy closed down, Norman and Leroy joined Detroit Redford, where they still sing in the choir together. For years, Norma and Charlotte emailed back and forth. And then, after Russell died in August 2006, Norma began calling Charlotte every Sunday. Every Sunday, you can be sure, Norma dials up her cousin. And on this day, July 7th, 2012, where one of them has already crossed the threshold into 70, and the other will have bragging rights about only being in their 60s for a few more months. We, the members of the Ford family reunion, who forever hear these echoes, come in the kitchen and make this salad. Carry this bench to the other cabin. Have this in the program that I relinquished to you 5 years ago. Take out this trash. Make sure you close the lid on the trash so the raccoons don't get it. Walk the baby down to the other cabin. Tell the uncles I said they have to do it. We are having a parade and you will participate. Don't make me have to knock you out. We salute you.